That'd take a while. And this is how you come down. Well, I put out 5 trail cameras around the property last evening before it got dark, and nothing on there today, so don't know what that was about yesterday with the tracks. We'll see. anything goes by those cameras now, and we'll know. But anyway, lots of voices to be heard. I'm on my old phone. It goes back, there's some notes in here from 2019 on it, emails, and they don't have red beside them, so I'm going to read them. Crazy. What else? I woke up this morning in my feed, there's a thing on Portland, Oregon, and I clicked on the video for a minute. It was a 6-minute video. I watched it. Holy, oh my God, that's all I can say about that. Unbelievable what has happened to a major city here in North America. It's unbelievable. And it's almost confirmation for me when I remember a while back I was coming to the conclusion that possibly that dominating flaw, character flaw that humans have been created with, seems to be dominating these days. It makes that person with that flaw need to be in control, right? And I think it's possibly we're at the generation now where, after generations of these characters battling to get into the place of control, I got a funny feeling that now we're seeing the fruits are coming through, are growing, maturing, of what happens when those character flaws manage to get into the position of control and manage to stay there for a handful of years. I think I may be correct on my theory, maybe. Who knows? Pretty amazing, though, what's happened in Portland, Oregon. Holy cow. Unbelievable. Anyway, I'm sure a lot of you people are from Oregon are here and you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, let's get back to hearing some voices right away. You guys smashed the shit out of that GoFundMe request for the DNA study. Can't wait to see the outcome of that. Good work. Now, hey man, first I'd like to say I'm a huge fan of what you do on your channel. This is from 2019. Thank you for being there for us, for those of us who don't feel comfortable doing so. I'll keep my encounters short because I know you're on a time crunch, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm from a small town in the hills of Kentucky, and around here not much is said about these beings. I was 15 when I had my encounter. A friend of mine and I were hiking in the woods behind my grandparents' house. It's hundreds of acres of trees, but in the very back, there's an old abandoned strip mine pit. We would always grab sticks, rocks, or anything to throw off the high wall, which was 80 feet straight down to the water. As we were finding things to toss in, I found this huge rock, somewhat buried and probably 250 pounds plus. I called my friend over to help me pick it up, but even with both of us, couldn't budge it. We lost interest eventually and went on hiking. As we got probably 200 yards away from the spot with the rock, I heard this big kadoosh. We went back over there to see what sounded like someone jumping off the cliff. That's when we see that the massive rock was gone. No drag marks. Not that it had been rolled, because it was 40 feet from the edge. Nothing but the indentation where it once was. It looked like it had just been plucked from the ground and thrown in. We never seen or heard anything, but we got the hell out of there, and I haven't been back since. I can't say it was or wasn't a Bigfoot, but what else could have sat there and watched us struggle with it, and after we leave, just toss it in like a pebble? I've always wondered if it was just trying to show us its dominance because it knew two of us couldn't pick it up. Anyways, once again, thank you for your time and your no bullshit policy. Please don't use my name. Best regards. Okay, man, I got you. Yeah, that's pretty incredible. And that instantly shoots my memory back to a account of a native man who was fishing in a river close to the mouth of the river, netting salmon, filled his boat with salmon. And the tide went out and he couldn't budge his boat from shore. And he went somewhere to get help possibly and came back. And there were huge footprints going from the bush down to his boat. The boat was just pushed enough in the water. It wasn't leaving, I guess, it's still there. But something huge had come down, pushed his boat into the water and took a few salmon for its efforts. Pretty bizarre, right? So, I guess some of these beings do watch, and then they feel compelled to get a little bit of assistance or do something that might be kind of funny. That'd be something else to witness, and I wonder how many of us when we were kids would never go back there as well after that. Imagine if you turned around and seen the thing tossing it like a pebble. Here's the next one. My name is Eric Campbell. This is from 2019 as well. And as a young man at the age of 16 in the late fall of '79, I was being followed by a Bigfoot. A friend and I decided to share our profits from running 2 different trap lines while still in school. My friend ran a muskrat and mink line, and I would run a fox, coon, and possum line. That's a trap line for all those who don't know what that is. My buddy had 5 lakes and a creek that were about 2 miles, mostly open terrain. Excuse me. I had a 4-mile run, all woods except a little stretch of pasture field. We both got up early before school to chuck our lines, and also in the evenings after we got our homework done. The pelts were sold prior to Christmas, so we were able to purchase presents for our families. One morning prior to school, I got up and dressed to check my line. I'd carry a small wooden club and a hunting knife on my side. It was dark out when I would leave and had a headlamp and a stronger flashlight I would carry in my backpack. I had an English Springer Spaniel that always went with me on my morning and evening runs. About halfway on my run, I had 2 coons in my backpack, but I felt I was being watched. As I stopped to look and listen, I heard my dog growling very low. She was looking behind us. I felt the hair on the back of my neck standing up. The dog just confirmed what my sixth sense was telling me. I scanned the woods with my headlamp behind us for movement. Nothing. I continued on to check my trap line, but as I started, my dog was walking backwards and growling very low. That'd be weird to see a dog doing that, walking backwards and growling. This was a behavior I've never seen in her. We traveled another 200 yards with me stopping periodically to light up the area behind us, and nothing. Although I would hear footsteps stop after I stopped. We went another 100 yards with her still walking backwards and starting to growl louder. The noise behind us was closing in on both of us. I stopped and pulled my brighter flashlight out of my backpack. By now my dog's growls were much louder. I scanned once with my headlamp and then turned on my flashlight. As I swung the flashlight from left to right, I saw 2 human-like figures at a distance of 75 yards. I knew then I had a serious problem, but I never stopped swinging the flashlight. I didn't want them to know they'd been spotted. As I continued to swing the flashlight, my light hit an old tree stump with no bark on it, although this trunk has what looked like fur growing off of it. Also, at about 10 foot up this broken off dead tree, I seen steam in the air. As I continued swinging my light to the right, never stopping, I seen the reddish reflection of an eye. This third one had closed to within 50 yards. I had 30 yards to go before I could get to the open pasture field. My dog by this time had also seen what I had seen, and by glancing down at her, she was now turned around and her eyes looked like they were pleading with me to please run. I took her advice. With a full-out sprint, we were both heading toward the open field. I believe at one point in the sprint I was leading her. We hit the field, but there was a fence to cross, which my dog made short work of by going underneath. I threw my backpack over and followed her lead by diving and rolling underneath the fence, all the while thinking it would grab my leg as I was trying to get under. I knew by the sound of the leaves it was right behind me. As I scooped my backpack up, I swung the flashlight behind me. All I could see was fur. The smell in the air was like something sweet and repugnant. It was huge. As my flashlight hit its face, which was pointed up at a 45-degree angle, it let out a scream that felt like it reverberated through my soul. The thing could have easily ended my life. To this day I try to figure out why it didn't. 3 things never happened again after that morning. 1, I never checked my trap line without my father's .348 strapped on my shoulder. 2, my dog never went with me to check my trap line again. No shit. 3, the most important of all is, I never again questioned my sixth sense. Good for you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to release this experience, which has been penned up inside of me for 40 years. Yours sincerely, Eric Campbell. Eric, appreciate you, man. That's not a very fun experience for anybody or anything to have. That is a real nasty thing to do to anybody. Why do they do that to people? I don't get it. I don't get it. Why? You know? Pushing the boundaries of what they can or can't do. I don't know. What a shit-eating experience, man. I'm glad you still go out. That's crazy. The dog never went. That's pretty bizarre. Everything's pretty bizarre, isn't it? What a terrifying frickin' experience. There's another one from 2019. Hi Steve, I had a sighting dragging a buck out of state game area in Roscommon County, Michigan. 4th day gun season 2013. I've been hunting for 45 years. Spent a lot of time in the woods, 3 to 4 weeks a season camping. We hunt a flooding area, roughly 6,000 acres. A lot of swamp with islands with some nice oaks on them. The DNR plants a few rye fields back in there also, where I shot a nice 8-point that evening. 2 days previous to this, we had a bad storm blow through the area with a lot of rain on the 17th. It raised the water levels in the flooding a lot. We have to cross an area that has a big culvert for draining mud lake to a swampy area. Bit of typos. On the way out that afternoon, the 19th, we noticed a lot of dead fish washed up on shore. Well, anyway, shot a buck that evening in the forest rye field, a ways, and in the farthest rye field, a ways from camp, maybe a mile. Forgot the deer cart back at camp, so we took the slings of our rifles to drag it out, whatever it takes. Took a shortcut, a little piece of high ground next to the swamp, come out to the trail that leads back to the camp. Standing there taking a rest, no wind temperature, about 24 degrees. You can see your breath going straight up in your head. Headlamps. It was dead quiet. Roughly 150 yards in front of us, sounded like a bowling pin hit a dead cedar. Then there was another tree knock in between us and the rye field where I shot and gutted the buck. The third tree knock was between us and camp. Still had roughly a quarter mile down the trail back to camp. Got to the edge, mud lake, and I told my son, wait here and I'll go get the deer cart for the last 300 yards instead of dragging it. As I got across the little dam, water is roaring from the rain 2 days earlier. I heard splashing next to shore just past the dam. I thought, what in the hell is that splashing? And I can hear over the roaring of the dam. Got closer to the sound, turned my headlamp up, looking down in the tags. We read this. Now it sounds totally familiar. I'm going to keep going. It's almost done. I was on a slight elevation, and this thing slowly looked up at me at about 15 yards away. Its eye was as big around as the bottom of a pop can. Brilliant blue. Its head was very wide. We locked eyes for a few seconds. It was standing in 2 feet of muck, and the tags were about 5 feet tall. Its head was about 1 foot above the tags. When it took off through that shit, it was as fast as a bolt of lightning. It was dark, and I could see its silhouette. Looked to be maybe 4 feet wide at the shoulders. I yelled at it as it was hitting the other bank. You get you some bitch. Had the scope on it, out of instinct. 2 rounds left in the odd 6. Almost let one go over that thing's head, descended on its way. I either carry a 350 Remington mag or a 450 Marlin now. Sincerely, Tony Montague. You can use my name. To my friends that don't believe me, you don't spend enough time doing what you love. Steve, love your channel. Keep up the good fight and hunt hard. P.S. That thing was eating those dead fish that washed up on shore. Forgot to mention that. Okay, totally familiar. Read this one. No biggie. There's thousands of new people here. And a quick note to all you people, all you hunters out there that insist on needing to drag a deer out whole. I don't know why you do it. I don't know why people do that. I put out videos. It's on my deer hunting Blacktail Hunter app too. Big game hunting app. I put out videos on YouTube. And I've shown people how to strip all the meat off the carcass and leave all the stuff there for nature to consume, which we're supposed to be doing. And taking home all the good parts, the stuff you're going to eat, and leaving all the other stuff that you're going to turn around and possibly throw in a dumpster or garbage bin or something where it's going to go to landfill or whatever, and it's not supposed to. It's the whole cycle is supposed to utilize the carcasses from kills from all of nature. It all goes in circle, right? We're supposed to leave those parts in nature on the ground. Anyway, so for all you people that get screwed up, especially having an experience like this, you know, I had to leave the deer, I couldn't get up by myself, or 2 of us had to pack it or drag it. Dragging heavy weight is how you throw your back out too. But anyway, I use a pack frame, an empty pack frame, so it's super light, and then I have waterproof, roll-up waterproof rubber bag about that big that I put all my stuff in, licenses, snacks, knives, camera batteries, whatever. I put that stuff in there, and I also roll up my rain jacket and rain gear, and I'll strap that on there. Reason being, I don't want meat in my main backpack. I don't want it in there. Blood gets in there, goes rancid. You're not going to get the smell out. But anyway, that's how I hunt. And I don't care if it gets dark. Who cares if it gets dark? If something's going to snuff your ass in the forest, it's going to do it daylight or nighttime. It doesn't matter. So what I'm saying is, sometimes it's best to possibly just strip all the meat off that carcass, put it on your backpack, and walk out with it on your back. It's not that hard. It's hard for big, heavy bucks. I've done some heavy ones. But it's the way to go. Maybe some of you will take my advice and start doing that, because it's a very smart thing to do, hunting today. But anyway, moving along. We read that one, read it again. No harm done. Okay, moving along. And this is in a column this is January 9th, 2020. This email came to me. And it has no email, and the top is usually in yellow, the header. The name, or on the bottom, there's no name, but I have a feeling. Okay, let's just read this. I share your anger with Dr. M and the, quote, gang, end quote. I'm going to change names a little bit. When you get into my book, you will see just how far they went to destroy a person's life. They take advantage of good, well-meaning, honest people. It was so unfortunate that the likes of Money Taker and Dr. M got into positions to steer the research and the information released to the public. If it was about the truth with them, they would have helped Dr. Ketchum and helped her secure more funding and do more in-depth analysis. Money Taker went after a lady named Mary Green. Mary was a pioneer in Sasquatch research. She documented and scientifically studied them starting in the 60s. You don't hear much about her because the, quote, old school, end quote, guys, to include Money Taker, went after her to ruin her, because the observations she had about the Sasquatch was pointing to a human hybrid, even back then. The Sasquatch she was encountering had a round, normal head, more human-like features, and the ape school guys went after this poor lady like you wouldn't believe. I became friends with her around 2011, 2012-ish, and she shared a lot of what she knew and her research. A very smart lady. Unfortunately, she passed away a couple years ago, but the point is these guys have been controlling a narrative for 40 years and are ruthless in defending it. I'm so glad you're taking them on. I agree, the subtle approach you have is working, and it's definitely turning the tide. Okay, that was 2020. There's nothing worse than hearing of anybody going after and destroying good, honest people, especially a woman all alone who can't defend herself from big sons of bitch bullies, right? Maybe one day they come to my house and try to shut me up. That'd be a lot of fun. I'd really enjoy that a lot, actually. And yes, the tides have changed, and we are continually, substantially kicking these shit bags to the curb. And I've heard some heads up of some real dirty, filthy things they've done to other people, including a woman who's apparently assaulted by one of these people in order to shut her up. And I wouldn't mind hearing from that woman if she may be following this channel, or hearing confirmed evidence of these things happening. Bring it to me, and we will not help them hide any longer. Dirtbags. Here's another one. This is from 2020. Hey Steve, my name is Mary. I grew up on a farm in rural North Carolina, and I've been in and out of the woods my whole life. When I was 8, I got my first gun. I have a CCW in 4 states. That's concealed carry, I think. I'm no stranger to the outdoors. When I was around 12, I was just on my walk behind our house on my family's property. I was sitting by a creek and heard something walking downstream. I thought it was my daddy, but I saw quickly that it was not. It was something covered in blackish brown fur and stood about 6 feet tall. I stood completely still. It caught me staring, and when I looked in its eyes, I dropped down and rolled up in a ball. You know, I've always heard if you come across a bear, that's what you should do. I heard it walking away, but I stayed in that ball for over an hour, maybe more. When it started getting dark, I decided it was time to go. I got up and ran all the way to my parents' house, which was at least a mile away. My daddy was home when I got there, and I told him what I saw, and he told me they were wood boogers. He told me not to tell a soul what I had seen, and I never did. At that time, I didn't stop doing things that involved going out alone or hunting. I really didn't think about it. Fast forward to the age of 33, I got my dream job working for Florida Department of Game and Fish. whenever they acquire a new tracts of land to make it a WMA, they do controlled hunts to the public. At that time, my job was to manage the area while the hunts were to happen. We had basically a shed out in the middle of nowhere that would be my office and a four-wheeler. I weighed and tagged animals as well as took samples of blood for each animal. Anyways, this area was on the banks of the St. Johns River. I had a hunter who wasn't out of the area and it was time to close the gate. I went to look for them on the four-wheeler. I came to the bank of the river and standing on the other side was the same thing I saw when I was 12, but much, much bigger. Wow. This time I got a good look at it. It had a human face and had red hair instead of black. Let's say that one more time for shits and giggles, shall we? Quote, it had a human face, end quote. It had red hair instead of black and his hair was matted. Hair mentioned this time. I reached for my gun and when I did, it screamed. It was almost like the roar of a lion. It was so deep and loud. I backed that machine up and turned around and got the hell out of there. Thank God my hunter was waiting at the shed when I got back. I was almost going to leave him. I shook when writing down the stats of that hog. And I shook till I got home. I never went back in the woods again. I told my daddy I didn't want any of the land that I was supposed to inherit because I would never live there. Just because of them. Whatever they are. Now I live in a very urban area in Florida. About 6 months ago I started seeing your posts about your own experiences and experiences of others. It interests me. I've researched as much as I can without actually being alone in the woods. Could you please give me Scott Carpenter's email? Can you refer me to some people about this subject, or could you give them my email so they can contact me? I really need to talk to the intelligent people who are informed on the subject. Something strange is happening around my house at night. Weird noises, my dog's barking at all hours of the night. Stuff that a year ago wasn't happening. I've even had someone look under my house for the source of the strange noise. Whatever it is, I've never heard before in my life. I've heard some of the things Scott Carpenter talks about and read some on the Nephilim, and maybe that's the reason I ever told anyone. And another reason I didn't say anything was the fact that both times I saw this thing, my hair stood up. I got the chills. That's never happened to me, ever. Keep the stories coming. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Mary. Wow, Mary. I feel bad for you that you had that stripped from you like that. It's not fair, is it? I'm so sorry it took so long to find your email. I don't believe I read that before. I would have remembered. Something would have been familiar if it wasn't anything familiar reading it out loud. And maybe email me back if you're still here with us. Email me back if you still need some. You've probably learned a lot if you're still watching this channel, right? You've probably learned a lot since then, I would imagine. If you have any concerns or knowledge, or new knowledge, or whatever's coming your ride in this lifetime, and you feel it may be handy to share it, email me back, all right? Thank you for your share. Here's another one. And this is from January 11th, 2020. Mark, this is Brad. I felt compelled to just send you an email to let you know what you're doing is very much appreciated by so many people. I watch your YouTube channel whenever there is a new video posted. It takes courage, true grit, and big balls to stand up against those who are knowingly misleading the public to further their own fake agenda. I consider myself to be an honest man. I'm a retired police officer living just east of St. Louis, Missouri. Oh, St. Louis, MO in Illinois. I have zero field experience when it comes to any form of research, and I have never hunted in my life. My father, who was 96, never allowed any toy guns around the house, so I never even owned and fired one until I was 20. Fighting in World War II must have instilled in my dad a strong dislike for all guns. Anyway, I've read so many books on the subject of Sasquatch, and I've learned the best way to get more educated on this subject is to keep my mouth shut and use my ears to listen and learn. I've had an interest in this subject since I was a child, old enough to read, and certainly have been laughed at by distant family members. In the police academy and An old school state trooper told me a very important thing to do while you're out patrolling. He looked me in the eyes and said, if you take the time to always pay attention to your surroundings, remember that you will see more odd things out there if you regularly look into your rearview mirror. I have read of so many accounts of law enforcement officers who reported seeing a large hairy bipedal creature walk across the road right after they drove by. I've been taught to follow the evidence, and in my opinion, it is overwhelming. I want you to know that all of your hard work standing up to the haters, liars, and internet trolls is so much appreciated. This subject is like a huge dam holding back water, but over many decades, there are holes and cracks that just keep getting bigger and letting more water leak through. The truth about this creature is just the same as all that water. And by the way, Melba Ketchum is one of my heroes, and what they did to her is terrible. God bless you and continue to fight the fight. Sincerely, Mitchell A. Sorrell. Appreciate that email, my man. Appreciate it. Sorry it took so long to get to it, but appreciate it. Those are words of encouragement for everybody here. Good one. And look in your rearview mirror, right? If you want to take something from that email, there's something to take. Look in your rearview mirror. Here's another one from January 12th, 2020. This is when people started getting up the confidence, starting to email in. One a day instead of 10 or 15, right? Mark, this is red. Hello, Steve. My name is Ken Salmond, and I live in Parksville, BC. I'll try to keep this short, but have several experiences I will pass on. Okay, this is familiar. Might have read this. I remember emails from you. I'm a hunter by nature and started as a kid in Victoria. And at 73 years old, I have a fair bit of experience. I mentioned that to clarify, I know the bush and I know tracks. First experience in 76. I met a man a few years older than me. His name was Norm. One day Norm invited me and my ex to dinner, at which time he pulled out a Polaroid photo that astounded me. It was a picture taken on a sunny day from no more than 40 years. I still clearly remember it and did view it twice. It was a tall creature walking through some aspen trees, and it was as clear as a bell. My guess, about 7 feet tall, not big and heavy like Patterson photo, but lean and extremely strong looking. I could clearly see his face from the side view and his whole body except feet, as grass was about a foot tall. The photo was from the interior, as I recall aspen trees. I want to go on with details, but we'll take a lot more writing, so short version. Not an ape. Thick lips, wide flat nose, moderate brow ridges, sloped forehead, and almost no neck. It would have to turn body to look back. I also remember it looked happy, and that's because the corner of his mouth curled up a bit. Its hair was short like a deer and similar in color. No fat, long arms. It looked extremely strong and dark patch underarm. I think it was sweat. I could see muscle definition and tendon in the arm. And legs. My thought was, it looked like a young, prime adult. It was confusing. As remember, thinking it's not an ape. It's not a Neanderthal. It was confusing. This haunted me for years. Finally, in 2012, I contacted Dr. John Bendernagel and met with him at his house in Courtenay. Told John about this, and it was great to be able to talk to someone who didn't brush me off. I had not talked to Norm since, the late 70s, as I had moved up island. So I grabbed my phone book and dialed the only guy in Victoria with his name, and Norm answered. Excuse me, guys. I drove to Victoria and we met. He was now in his 80s and in a wheelchair, and he still had the picture, but in one of many boxes in his basement. I offered him $500 for that picture, and I would pay for someone to search it out. I also set up a meeting with him and John, but by then John was sick. But on his last trip to Victoria for chemo, he did stop to meet Norm. Unfortunately, John passed a few weeks later, and Norm about 3 weeks after John, so I lost all contact. John did give me several photos and 2 plaster casts of tracks that I am thankful for, but the best part was finally meeting a man that I could talk to. As like you said in one of your videos, it never leaves your head. In 2014, I had another experience. I also met John to talk about. In short, my wife and I took a trip up past Great Central Lake in late March and into Strathcona Park, trying to reach Oceano Lake. Got stopped by snow next to the Ash River. I walked uphill looking for deer or whatever tracks I could find. There was nothing until I came across 8 huge 17-inch tracks in the snow that stunned me. So clear, I could make out small details in dermal ridges. I could describe in detail as some interesting details, but you're probably asleep by now. Oh well, not at all. I'm wide awake and right into this. I hope this doesn't stop going. If you want details, let me know. Thanks for listening, and thanks for the work you're doing, as it's so frustrating not being able to talk about what I know is real. I don't care if you use any of this. And as for Polaroid pics fading over the years, not so much. I have pics of Norm and 2 other friends dragging a moose we shot up at Aitken Lake, north of Manson Creek, back in '76. That is still pretty clear. I'm done. You have my email and my cell. I have nothing to hide from. Cheers, Ken. That is one hell of a frickin' email, isn't it? And it's amazing to me. I don't doubt for 1 second any word in that email. Excuse me. And where he just said in the end of the email where he saw the tracks is just this way from my place. Right over there. The Ash River is right over there. I was right beside it yesterday, actually. It's amazing. And isn't it amazing how many little roadblocks come up when it comes to, I've had people email me and tell me they saw clear Polaroids from a man near Pemberton who fed these beings years ago. Man passed away. I've had people related to that man become aware of me and the people in this channel. They've gone looking for the Polaroid. Haven't heard anything about it, as usual. A guy from Fort St. James claimed that he had clear photo of 2 of them on his trail camera. Had people from down near Nakusp, I think, the other end of the province, emailed me and said they knew the same guy saw the pictures. We don't get to see them. Who else? There's so many people who have had clear photos. It sounds like Polaroid might be the way to go, right? Possibly. Sounds like a bit of a slight pattern starting to come up. But there's been so many times that people offering up clear photos doesn't happen. What's the recent one? We had a guy driving to Northern California, I think, and traffic was stopped, and he took a picture of that being silhouetted on the hill, said his sister had clear photos, never got back to us. Do you know what I mean? It's endless. But then I will get a video of one that I'm asked to not share publicly. And I had that video on my other phone. It got wiped off. I could probably find it again somewhere. It's funny, isn't it? Isn't it just kind of odd that we keep getting these little stumps put in the middle of the road when it comes to acquiring maybe a quick peek at one of these photographs that so many people have claimed to have seen or had in their possession? I don't doubt them for a second. It's just... it's just amazing. It's just amazing how common that is to get blocked, right at the moment. And we get blocked. It's really odd. Now this one is from January 14th, 2020. Excuse me. Hello, Steve. Hold on, Mark. This is Red. Hello, Steve. My name is Justin Meyer. Pronounced Meyer. I'm 45 now, born and raised in Wyoming, and I am an avid outdoorsman. I'm standing with you 150% and with others who encounter these creatures. I have several stories, including finding a nest to being followed home one night. But my first encounter, man, it's like it was yesterday and it still gives me the chills, not to mention bad dreams. I was living in Billings, Montana. My first 3 years there, the people I met would tell me, my brother and parents, not to venture alone in this particular wooded area south of town known as Riverfront Park. Something creepy was there. Well, in 1993, I decided to go fishing at the main pond one early April morning at around 7 a.m. I got to my favorite spot just past the only bridge there. I sat under this tree line. No one else there. I had the pond all to myself. Well, I was sitting on the north side, and to my left across the pond at around 7:30, I heard a bunch of splashing. It was too cold for swimmers, so I thought maybe a couple of dogs. I heard it again. And I looked over and about shit myself. This thing, covered in auburn hair, massive in size, bigger and taller than Shaq and the Big Show, Paul White, who I've met both, stood up out of the water and took a step into the shore. I moved back in shock. It was about 75 feet from. Turned and looked straight at me. Ugly, horrific, and downright scary. We made eye contact for just maybe 15 seconds. Then it turned away and walked off into the woods. Just for maybe 15 seconds. Okay, everybody, picture what he's looking at and time 15 seconds, go. 15 seconds is an hour in real world time in the forest. Trust me when it comes to seeing things. I stood up, watched it, and heard it crash through the brush and break off tree limbs. I instantly gathered my stuff, walking backwards to the parking lot. And this other guy just showed up and was sitting in his pickup. I asked if he had also seen it. His reply was yes, and that he'd seen it before. Well, I instantly knew that it was a Sasquatch. The flat face, the bipedal walk, the sheer size, the cone-shaped head. Of course, no one believed me, but I did get my brother and a friend to go back with me the next day, and it ended up that our friend, who was 6'7", had to stand on a stump and raise his hand to measure how tall this Sasquatch was. We then measured it to 9 feet, its shoulders at about 4 feet across. That gave all three of us the chills. Never saw it again, but I never went alone either after that. Footprints would be seen time to time. I hear other people mention it. And now in 1996, I seen another one and a nest, but that's another story/account. I don't go alone into the woods. My senses are heightened, and I really don't sleep if I camp out. I do go armed, but I do go armed. I've come across moose, grizzlies. The Sasquatch are the ones that I fear the most. You can use my name. I stand with you. And on a personal note, I'd like to ask you more about them. I believe that they are somehow the Nephilim. That's my opinion. I wish to help expose them and stand against the fakes and bullied from the TV shows. Contact me anytime, preferably by phone or text. Thank you for you doing, Steve. Keep up the good work. Okay, man. Sorry I didn't get this read back then, but we got it. Right? We got it. What a crazy thing to witness, isn't it? Isn't that something else? I'm glad you still go. And if you got some more, sounds like you do, and if you're still with us, I hope you are, email us again and share more with us, okay? Share everything you got, man. Get it all out and share it. Please. If not here, somewhere else, somewhere. Just share it, okay? That's a freaking crazy ass description. And of course, there's numerous patterns in there, right? Patterns, everybody. Look for patterns in life, okay? Not just this topic, but any other topic. Look for patterns. All right, this email came in on January 20th, 2020. Mark this is red. None of these are marked as red. My name is Doug Erickson. Familiar name. And I'm a retired Minnesota game warden/pilot. Very familiar. My patrol area was in the northeastern part of the state, which is mostly wilderness. Feel free to use my name because, like you, I don't take crap from people either. In the 1980s, I was patrolling a very large lake in my patrol area on a very nice day. I decided to tie the boat up on shore and walk across a peninsula to observe any fishing activity in the next bay. I spotted a man still fishing in a boat about 100 yards out from me. I concealed myself and sat down. He did not move once. I put my binoculars on him to see what was up. Okay, we read this, but this is very interesting, and I'm going for it again. There's probably, 150,000 people here since this is read? He did not move once. I put my binoculars on him to see what was up. Within a moment, he started fidgeting, looking all around. He had his back to me and turned and looked directly at me. I was completely hidden, so he did not hear or see me. He started his boat and came to shore about 30 yards down the hill from me and started looking around, under brush and behind trees. I thought that he must have a hidden pile of fish somewhere and decided to let him pick it up before I picked him up. He looked from side to side, back to where I was and all around. After a few moments of this, I realized that he was looking for me. I was startled by this, but also very curious. As he walked around and started to get further away, I mentally told him to come back, and he did so each time until he walked up to the brush in front of me, spread it apart, and looked me right in the eye. I said, "How you doing?" He said, "I knew someone was watching me." I said, "Have a seat and let's talk." We soon discovered that we were both Army vets, and he said that he found he had that skill while in Vietnam and it saved his ass many times. I have felt this sixth sense many times when working and always took it as a warning. Get the hell away and find another route. What this guy did was amazing. He knew I was not dangerous. I forgot to check his fishing license. After a feat like that, a handshake was more in order. Jump ahead 30 years or so. A group of us outdoor types shoot sporting clays, and we were sitting on the deck of the clubhouse, and the subject of Bigfoot came up. I mentioned that I had doubts about any primate living in the wild in Minnesota in the winter because they lose body heat so fast and the calories needed would not be obtainable. We do get minus 60 F and colder here. My teammate spoke up and said he had seen one. He managed a mining supply company and was traveling between towns and had to take a leak. He pulled off on a side road close to where his hunting shack is and stopped by a power line. As he was doing his thing, he looked down the hill to a small swamp and saw a huge figure pulling cattails out. After a moment, the figure stopped, turned around and looked at him. It then ran to the popple tree, probably poplar, and hid behind it and looked at him from side to side, not realizing that his shoulders were 4 times the width of the tree. Nobody in the group said a word. 3 of us were retired law enforcement, some were loggers or miners, and log cabin builders, all outdoorsmen. I broke the silence and asked where he was exactly when this happened. And he said, right near Eveleth, Minnesota, Eveleth, close to me and one of our coldest towns. I never seen or found sign of a Bigfoot during my working years, and if I had, I would have kept my mouth shut until retirement. My friend said that it spooked him, and he told no one except his wife and hunting shack partner, and I believe my friend. Good for you, man. I believe him too, especially now. And I appreciate that. I never forgot about that because that's a skill that I'm really curious about, that I believe every single one of us possibly has in us, that man that's in the boat. I'll bet we all had it. I'll bet we all had that and more originally. I have a very sneaky, strong suspicion that might be true. But anyway, sir, appreciate you again. And if you've come across anything new since then, if you're still watching the channel, you know the drill. You know the drill, right? I want to hear it all, man. I met some real good people from Minnesota, guided them in the north for big game. It's non-stop, man. All right, I'm going to read this one more and I'm going to get going. And this one was sent in January 19th, 2020. Oops, and I just lost it. Hold on, where'd it go? All the way to the bottom. All right, here we go. In 1967, I was 10 years old and had gone trapping with my grandfather on the Groundhog River in northern Ontario. He had built a couple of cabins along the river to serve as stopovers as he made his rounds. We arrived at the cabin, which was deepest in the bush, to find our cabin completely ransacked by what we, at least I thought, not having heard of Sasquatch at this time, were bears. For years, I put off the strange things I saw that day as merely the incredible abilities of a hungry and curious bear. But today, armed with the knowledge of Sasquatch, in retrospect, it could have only been a Sasquatch. I should have guessed by the puzzled look and awkward silence from my grandfather that this was no ordinary bear. B&E. Oh, this is no ordinary bear, B&E. Number 1, the door had been ripped off and was found in a clearing a couple hundred yards down the trail. Number 2, the wood stove, a cook stove, which took 3 men to move, was found 500 feet up the trail. What was even stranger is that there were no drag marks anywhere. between where it originally sat and the clearing where it was found. Number 3, every jar lid, every container, every box had been opened. A case of wooden matches with 20 smaller boxes in it had been opened, and every little box had also been opened. Wow. Number 4, the 2 cot beds were never found, mattresses and all. Fortunately, the bunks had been left intact. Number 5, one of the windows had a loose steel mesh over it, with the squares being approximately 1 inch. It looked as if something put its hand or paw in it and squeezed all the metal to the center. The list goes on. Things a bear could never do, but I was too young to realize. I never thought to look for tracks, but I'm certain my grandfather did, being a master woodsman, which is probably why he did not mention it. That was the last year my grandfather trapped. Often wondered if it was because of the encounter or simply old age. Another interesting story I'm certain you've never heard. In '94, I was working in a healing center in Australia, where they often had shamans, psychics come and do presentations, etc. A woman psychic had come as a part of her presentation. She had asked a couple of the staff to put some pictures in unmarked envelopes so she could guess what they were. As one of the pictures, I put a sketch of a Bigfoot. That evening, as she successfully guessed her way through the envelopes, she come to my envelope. Immediately, her face went completely deadpan. Dropping the envelope on the floor, she said in a terrified voice, "Someone must stop these beings. They are working with the ETs and disappearing people." End quote. She was very upset and refused to touch that envelope again. Sure enough, it was my Bigfoot picture. Make of that what you may. My name is Dan. That'd be interesting to talk to that woman, Dan. If you're still with us here, what are the chances of you knowing who she is? I wonder if you could find out who she is, where she is, and if there's any contact for her. And if maybe at this point of the stage for her, she has possibly gained more knowledge, come to a place of being more at ease with the topic, and maybe she wants to talk about it. Maybe she wants to talk about what she knows and how she knows it. What she's seen, what she heard. How does she know? What does she know? How did she find out? Why does it scare her so much? Right? I'd love to hear from that woman. Anyway, sorry it took so long to get to it, but I got to it. I'll eventually get every single frickin' email I read, you guys. Anyway, I gotta go. I gotta get ready to go. I got some stuff I gotta do first and start packing up my gear, and me and Adventure Puppy are going into the BC coastal mountains. And I'm gonna videotape everything and take you guys with me. See you in a bit.